Marco's got the exam guide open at the back where it prints sample questions with the answers. He reads the first one and has his answer in 10 seconds because he's built this exact thing at work. He doesn't reread the other three, he rings the one he wants and reaches for the answer page. Freeze him there, one page short of finding out, because those 10 seconds of certainty are what this exam catches. Here is the question he just answered. A support agent has one tool that looks up a customer and one that looks up an order, and both descriptions are a single line. Users ask about an order, the agent keeps calling the customer tool, and the question asks for the most effective first step. Marco rank consolidate the two overlapping tools into one and it's marked wrong. That's a real answer from a real engineer. It survived a design review and nothing in it is false. Two words up in the stem had already decided it because it asked for a first step and rebuilding the tools isn't one. His option answers a question nobody asked, and this exam is largely built out of those. So this episode's about the paper itself and it's the only one with no domain and no task statement to cover. Every other episode teaches what the exam tests and this one teaches how the items get built. By the end you'll read a stem for the clause that rules most options out before you judge a single option. And you'll know the three shapes a wrong option takes from the examiner's own written explanations. One line carries all of it, the stem picks the answer, not the options. So start where the item starts. First move, and it's the one that changes your score fastest. Read the last sentence of the stem before anything else. On every sample the guide publishes, the ask sits in that final sentence, and it's never just good practice here. The most maintainable way, the most likely root cause, the most effective first step. Those are different questions, and the same system hands you a different right answer for each. You are not asked what's right, you are asked what's right for the thing that last sentence named. Second move, Marco's item says both tool descriptions are one short line and that isn't scene setting. The examiners say descriptions are the main thing the model uses to pick a tool, so the stem wrote the cause down for you. These items hand you the diagnosis mid-prose and any option fixing some other weakness is a wrong option. You've got the requirement and the cause, so the last thing to find is what the stem won't allow at all. Third move, and this one does the killing. Find the clause that limits what can count as an answer at all. Sometimes that's the absolute from the first episode, the must or the never, and every option offering advice dies on it. A stem that says conventions must apply automatically has ruled out anything a person has to invoke, and the examiners kill an option on that. Often it's quieter though, and a stem about refunds landing in the wrong account rules out anything that only asks the model nicely. There is no absolute in that stem, so the consequence was the absolute, because money moving wrongly is a claim about every future case. So widen the rule. An absolute is any requirement that has to hold in the cases nobody's thought of yet. That's the reading half done, and now for the half Marco skipped. Now turn the item over and look at the wrong options, because they are built, not scattered. Marco's item carries all three shapes at once, and the examiners name two of them out loud. The first shape is plausible advice, and it's the dangerous one because it's nearly always a real technique. Few short examples, a firmer line in the system prompt, better docs for the rule, everyone keeps breaking. On Marco's item, the explanation says the few short option adds token overhead without fixing the underlying issue. Nobody's calling few short bad there, they're calling it beside the point because the stem named a different cause. The second shape is the right answer to a question you weren't asked and it catches experienced people. The explanation calls merging the two tools a valid architectural choice, then rules it out anyway because the stem asked for a first step. That's Marco's 10 seconds. Good engineering does not win this exam, answering the question that was asked does. The third shape is more machinery than the cause needs, like a routing classifier in front of the tools or a model trained on old tickets. The explanations call that over-engineered, and one says it wants labeled data and infrastructure before prompting stride. And one item kills buying your way out with a bigger model because a larger context window doesn't fix an attention quality problem. So all three shapes test proportion, whether the fix reaches the cause the stem named at the size it asked for. Small isn't automatically right, so cheap wins when the stem asks for a first step, and mechanism wins when the stem says never, which is the same line again. The stem picks the answer, not the options. So take the three shapes back to the item Markorang. Same item, same four options, but this time you read it in order. A support agent has two tools, one for customers and one for orders, and both descriptions are one short line. Users ask about an order, the agent calls the customer tool, and the last sentence asks for the most effective first step. Requirement first, and it's a first step, so effort counts here, not only correctness. Cause second, and it's mid-stem, two tools that look identical to the model. Architect question, and this one's about which tool gets picked, so it's what can it touch. Now kill by shape, add few short examples routing order questions to the order tool. That's plausible advice, aimed past the cause, gone. Build a routing layer that parses the user's words and pre-selects the tool machinery doing the model's job, gone. Consolidate both tools into one good architecture and the wrong question because it isn't a first step, gone. What's left is expanding each description so it says what formats it takes, what it's for, and where it stops. Three defensible options died there, and not one died for being bad engineering. That's the method on one item, and the item tells you one more thing before you leave it. The item tells you how many responses it wants, and that count is part of the requirement. Not everything here is single answer. Some items are multiple response, and each says how many to select. An item asking for two responses is asking two questions, not one question twice. Worth stressing because an earlier version of this exam's own guide said every item had one right response and three distractors. The published samples won't rescue you because every one of them is single answer, so they undershow the format. So read the instruction line before the options, and when an item wants two, check the pair isn't one idea in two hats. That's one item handled, and items here don't arrive one at a time. Each scenario sets up one production system and a whole set of items hangs off that single setup. In the guide's own samples, that's three items hanging off each scenario. So read the scenario once and build a picture first, what tools it has, what it must hit, and where a human sits. Then the items walk down the layers of that one picture, and each layer is a different architect question. Here's the trap. Few short examples are a wrong option on two of the support agent's items and correct on the third. Nothing carries between items, so an option you killed a minute ago can be the answer now because the requirement moved and the system didn't. That's how the paper works, and two things narrow it before you sit down. The current guide publishes a list of topics it says will not appear on the exam. Fine-tuning or training custom models, hosting and deploying MCP servers with the networking that implies vector database internals, computer use, image analysis, streaming, token counting, and cloud provider configuration. Rate that list as a filter because an option resting on what the guide leaves out is rarely the one they want. Say it as what the current guide excludes though, never as a promise, because the cover says it can change without notice. The second narrowing is the room closed book, desk clear, one screen, no AI helping you, so you carry a method and not a pile of facts. One thing that has nothing to do with the questions and still ends, sittings, your photo identification has to match your registration, and sign up still runs through Anthropic's partner network. So it wants a company email on a partner domain, not a personal one. So here is the method in the order you use it. Read the last sentence first, find the cause the stem handed you, then rule out what the stem won't allow at all. Kill by shape instead of arguing option by option, and count the responses the item asked for before you leave it. What comes back is a scaled score against a fixed standard, not a curve against other candidates. The report also breaks you down by domain, and that part's diagnostic only, but it names which architect question you are weak on. Marco read his item again, last sentence first, and the option he rang lost to a two-line description change. The stem picks the answer, not the options. And come back, because the reviewer just contradicted itself on 14 files.